Hello, everyone. Glad to see you back here at Silver Tears Tarot, and of course, a warm welcome to anyone who is joining us for the first time. So, I was having this great conversation the other day with one of you, and the person pointed out I haven't done a reading to check in on her divine masculine lately. So, I realized we've looked into a lot of things, but it's true. This has been over a month since we've looked into what's happening with your divine masculine with your person. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to check in to see how your person is doing right now. We're going to look to see what's happening in their world. We've had just a lot of messages come out in recent readings here that would suggest your person is going through a lot of change. So let's dig into that and see how it's impacting their lives and anything that might be impacting your relationship and what you need to know about it. So, as you guys know, these are general readings, timeless, for all signs. They won't resonate with everyone, but if it does resonate with you, and if you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Also, like the video, and I'll know more about what it is that people want to see. So it's time to go ahead and pick out your pile. We have moons today, so you can choose pile 1. It has a little opalite moon, or you can choose pile 2 with the mookalite, and then pile 3 has an amethyst. So it's like I always say, don't overthink it. Just breathe. Let yourself drift toward one of the piles. You can pause the video if you have to. No reason you can't watch more than one. So if you've chosen pile 1, it'll be up here in just a moment. If you want pile 2 or 3, the easiest way is to go to the linked timestamps below. So pick your pile and let's get started. Getting started here with pile 1. Pile 1 has the opalite moon. I'm going to be reading for you with the Mystic Mondays Tarot, and then I'm going to clarify with the Black Tarot. These decks work really well together. So remember, we're looking at what's happening with your person, and the first thing we're going to do is check on the energy that it's flowing between you. In a minute, we're going to check on the energy that's happening just with them, but this is the energy that's flowing between you. Okay, so there is something that's out of balance. You probably already knew that, but there's the sense of something out of balance that is something that's been getting a lot of attention. So that's kind of what's special about it. It's been getting a lot of attention. It's impacting both of your happiness. So not just impacting your life and kind of the way you move through your life, but it's also impacting that happiness for you. So it's this deep down feeling of kind of almost existential imbalance that I'm feeling here. So we'll find out a little bit more when we clarify with the Black Tarot here in a minute. But yes, that's a sense between the two of you that things are not really going to remain the way that they are now. So it's an instability, but it's the type that wants to right itself. It's the type of thing that just wants to, it really wants, the situation cannot remain the way that it is. It's going to have to settle in some direction. So let's look at the energies that are coming from just your person. What's the energy that's not necessarily coming from them, but surrounding them? The energy that surrounds your person right now. Okay, so we have the Wheel of Fortune in reverse, just taking that top card. And so the Wheel of Fortune in reverse is a card of not feeling a lot of change. There is change that is maybe not happening for your person right now that they would almost like to see. It's a holding them back sort of feeling. So it's not just, this is the sort of change that comes from outside of your person. So it's not the one that the intrinsic desire for change, like you might see with the Chariot card. Instead, this is impetus that comes from the universe, and they feel like things are stagnant or not moving around them right now. And, you know, that's one way to interpret it. It could also just feel like things are very restful, but in their case, they're kind of restless, don't want to sit in one place. And there's a sense they don't like to sit in one place because it makes them very uncomfortable. So they like to keep moving. And this is a feeling like, you know, you are going to have to sit in one place, and that's very uncomfortable for them. Um, So that's an interesting kind of a high pressure sort of feeling, and it lends a little bit more to why there's imbalance between the two of you and why that energy may not be able to stay kind of the way that it is now. So let's look now into how they're feeling about you. How they're feeling about you. So they've got the Three of Cups, but it's in reverse. So this is an interesting one. It'll be interesting to see what happens when we clarify because this is where they're expecting to have a good time, but something's getting in the way of it. It's a third energy getting in the way of the two of you having a good time, but it's not necessarily a person. So it could be. In some cases, you're going to have a person who has said, "I don't want these two people to hang around. I don't want you to be around this other person." But in some cases, in a lot of cases, there's going to be something else to it. It's going to be work oriented. It's going to be otherwise, not necessarily a specific person, but there's something that's getting in the way of the two of you having a good time. Could even be, in a few cases, that they can't get over a hurdle in their own mind. That if they could, they would be able to enjoy things and get on with it a little bit differently. But there is definitely something here that gets in the way of the way they think about their time with you. Like they expect it to be better, and then something gets in the way. Um, Okay, so let's look to see how they reflect upon your relationship. This could be, how they feel about your relationship, how things are kind of coming out for them now. And we have the Knight of Cups. So that's like a desire to make a move in your direction, but it's a very emotional move. This one's kind of a special night because, so all of the knights are cards of action. And in this case, this one is more of an emotional action. This is somebody being flirtatious and asking you on a date. This is somebody taking you to a nice place. But by the same token, there's also a feeling coming from this card that I usually more get from it in reverse, and that is kind of a lack of confidence. I almost, it's strange because I almost feel it in like the card feels like it came out the wrong way, or not really the wrong way, but like I wish it could have come out sideways because I'm really feeling both sides of it. I'm feeling both. Here's the impetus to want to move forward, and that inability to do so due to kind of a lack of confidence, not being able to come forth with that sort of emotion right now. I think it has to do with this current energy where they find themselves right now because it's like this Knight of Cups is would just be the energy of the upright, would just be that kind of wanting to come toward you, except for this energy that slows everything down or makes your person feel like they can't move forward. It is also impacted by this thing here that makes them have not such a great time despite the fact that they expect to have a good time. So something's getting in the way, and it is getting in the way of how they feel about or how they reflect on the relationship as well. So that's interesting. Let's take a look at this hidden energy now. So this is going to be what your person is struggling with. So we've got a sense of their current energy right now. We see how their energy is with you, how they've been thinking about you, how they're reflecting on the relationship, and we've got a sense that they're experiencing some struggles. Definitely this not having as good of a time as they expected. There's something in the way for them here. But feeling, this is probably the biggest one, feeling like there's something that is just kind of dampening the energy around them and making it so that they cannot move forward as quickly. So this is going to be, again, it's struggles. It is hidden energy. So this is something that I wouldn't expect you to exactly be able to see from your current perspective. And let's see here. So we have the Princess of Wands, and she's come out in reverse. The Princess of Wands is okay. So let me go ahead and explain this. So the Princess of Wands is a very curious, it's like, so the princess is the equivalent of a page in this deck, and the Princess of Wands is a very curious sort of princess. She's ready to try new things, jump in there, and if something doesn't work, she'll give it another try and try it again. But she's willing to do that. She's willing to do things that, the somebody with a lesser attitude might not be willing to do, or somebody who has been beaten down too much might not be willing to do. And that's kind of what we're seeing here, is the energy of not being willing to get out there and do something new. So this is the struggle that your person is having. They are experiencing an issue where they don't feel like they can really get out there and do something new. There is something getting in the way of their curiosity. We saw here that something getting in the way of their confidence, making things not really turn out the way that they were hoping for them to, in any case, creating imbalance between you. And they are sort of, I don't want to say blaming it on, but they're feeling like this is very much due to this lack of movement that's happening here, this stagnant energy that they're feeling. But really, um, it's something where they need to stop. I feel this pretty strongly, and I felt this ever since I put this card down. And when we clarify, we'll learn a little bit more. But I feel like they need to learn to sit in this discomfort, like you have been doing. So you have been learning, and we've seen this all across the collective. I'll do a three pile reading, and it'll show up in all three piles. But what it has been is you have been learning how to be comfortable in a situation that is not especially comfortable. And so your person, when they are confronted with the same sort of energy that kind of isn't moving, doesn't want to move, they feel uncomfortable with it, and they feel like they've just kind of got to do something to move it along. So this is they get depressed by this energy, and it is almost an energy of depression that kind of comes down across here. Could even be depression that is making things less fun than they were expecting them to be, and creating issues with their confidence. So I can't wait to get in and clarify this, but let's go ahead and take a look here at the energy that is coming your way for the two of you. So this is kind of what's coming next for you. But it's the energy that you're moving toward because of the rest of what's on the table here. So it's kind of the way that you're going. It is not a definite future. And it's around your person. We're looking into your person. So it's very specific to them. And it's kind of like the energy that you're going to be moving into. If their energy between the two of you is that temperance in the reverse, and the energy for them is that wheel of fortune, what you'll be moving in together is, or moving into the direction of together, is the Lover's card. And this one has come out in reverse too. And so the Lover's card in reverse, it's about a choice in love, but it's about one that you're not necessarily getting to make. So there's something up here, we see it again, something standing in the way of the two of you having a good time and truly enjoying things as much as you would have. So not saying that you guys didn't have a good time, just saying that there was something getting in the way of it, whether it is another person, could be depression, and feeling the rest of what's come out here on the table. I definitely believe the depression could play into this. It could be a factor. And whether it's a constant or consistent thing or not, it feels like what's sort of playing into this energy. So I guess let's go ahead and start to clarify. So again, we're going to clarify using the Black Tarot. And here we go. We're going to start with the Temperance card in reverse. So that's the current energy that we were seeing between the two of you. Um, oh, that's a single card, so we'll take it. We have the Hermit. So that is, going into that thinking cave. That's how I often will phrase the Hermit or frame it up. And we've got the King of Wands in reverse. So there is, and I feel like a grasp. There is a desperate attempt to try and really control what's happening with this situation, especially because it does feel unbalanced. It does feel like a situation where you've got to go off and think for a little while. This Hermit feels almost like a hanged man. And so the hanged man, and it feels like a hangman in reverse. And so the hanged man is all about having a new perspective, having gone and gotten a new perspective, but being forced to sit in place. It's probably more this feeling, being forced to sit in one place and sort of just have the experience. And so this Hermit card implies that you put yourself into hermit mode. Whereas the hanged man tree, that's kind of the universe that puts you there. But in this case, it's definitely, hey, I've got to go off and figure some things things out. There are some truths that I have to figure out. I've got to find this balance. There is a deep drive for both of you to want to establish this balance. And I feel like this is something that's happening on your person's side. There may be a little element of this with you as well, just kind of wanting to almost force it into place, strong arm it into position and say, all right, this is really frustrating. It is something that's kind of not moving quickly enough for me. And that is definitely what I see in your person's energy. It's not moving quickly enough for them. So what they'd really like to do is kind of force the issue or, make it so that it does move a little bit more quickly. It's a natural response, works most of the time, but in this case, it's probably not going to work very well because the object is really to learn how to live in the discomfort. And that's not an easy thing to do. So, Wheel of Fortune, let's go ahead and take a look here at this Wheel of Fortune in reverse. And this is your person's current energy. So they're feeling like things are stagnant, things are not moving the way that, this is a single card, I'll take it, the way that they would like. So we've got the Page of Wands in reverse. That is the same energy as this. So this is their hidden energy is now showing up in their current energy. We also have the Ace of Swords, which talks about truth. So the Ace of Swords is it's all about a new truth or having the truth or coming to the truth, using the truth. It's a very truth oriented sort of card. And so when you have the Wheel of Fortune, and it's just like what we were seeing a few minutes ago. So it's that sense of needing to sit and get right with things, to get right with themselves, to get right with these truths that are kind of hitting them and coming to them. So, this Ace of Swords is not always a comfortable truth. It is simply the truth. And as we know, the truth is not always a comfortable thing. Sometimes it's very challenging. And especially when it's coupled with this sense of feeling like they don't know that they want to move on with it. So, remember, this is that lack of. It's a lack of confidence. It's reflecting a little bit of a lack of confidence, like what we saw over there. But more than anything, it's really that it's that not wanting to jump out and do something new. It's the lack of curiosity, and it's a painful thing because this is a really, deep down quite a curious person, but they've been, I almost kind of expect to see like a 9 of Wands in reverse the way this feels here, where or maybe just a 9 of Wands in the upright. Definitely that sense of protecting a wall for entirely too long. So now there are truths here, but your person is sort of rejecting them or choosing not to see them, and it's a lot because they feel like they can't tolerate it. They feel like they can't really deal with it. So there's definitely a sense of I can't face this right now. So these truths are going to have to stay off to the side for a little while longer. Okay, so that's a difficult place to be, but at least we understand it. We understand kind of what's going on here. So I see both of you kind of going off and doing the thinking, looking for the additional wisdom, but it's really your person that's trying to grasp control of the situation. You may also be just trying to understand it more, trying to get in there and really say, all right, let's get to the bottom of this. What is it that's creating this imbalance? What can I do to reestablish a balance? But your person is a little farther down the rabbit hole. I'm not willing to be uncomfortable. I'm feeling like I'm losing all of my energy and my nerve, and I can't tolerate these truths right now. They almost know that on a intellectual level. That's an interesting sort of feeling because they are aware of a lot more of this emotion um, than some people are. So I would guess that's one of the hallmarks that's going to show up with this pile. Although you never know, because we have been seeing a lot of the divine masculine, and that's the thing. We each have masculine, we each have feminine. So I'm disinclined to necessarily refer to your person as always being the divine masculine. But in like 95% of the cases, that's probably the best way to describe it. So, just take that into consideration when I say it. It's not going to be everybody, but it will be most people. And when I'm thinking about a collective of this size, I definitely want to make sure to be respectful and address what's happening with most people, but also say there are going to be some folks that don't have that description or don't fit that description. So, All right, your person's current energy, they're having a hard time facing the truth. They're having a hard time really even advancing forward with it because they're feeling like their fire feels like it's leaking out of them. And that's so weird. That's like I'm just getting it from this picture. Like their energy is leaking out of them, and it's being leached away by something. And I see it coming out of the heart over here. That's part of the impact of what's happening. You get somebody who just pulls away and kind of isn't able to communicate, but there's going to be more to it. Let's take a look here at this Three of Cups. So the Three of Cups was how they feel about you, and the thing that stuck out the most about how they feel about you was that it's not when they get together with you or when they have experiences with you, it should be better than it is. There's something that's getting in the way, and whether it's depression or it's some set of circumstances, it could be a person. A few of you, your person is married, and so the problem is that they've got a significant other who doesn't want you to be in contact, or and that could be a very real and concrete issue, like a Three of Cups type of issue. On the other hand, though, if you've got a situation where it's depression and they just can't seem to get past it, that is just as strong of an issue as a person who has a spouse that is not interested in the two of you being around each other. So interesting, though, things that came out to clarify it here are the Eight of Cups in reverse and the Queen of Wands in reverse. So the Queen of Wands in reverse, let's take a look at her first. So the Queen of Wands is very passionate, very much moving forward, doesn't take no for an answer, finds a way to get where she's trying to go. And what I'm seeing here is that something has cut her off at the knees. So basically, she is very much somebody who pushes forward. She's like a battering ram in a conversation if she needs to be, especially if it feels like things aren't moving the direction that they need to go. But that's not what's happening here. She has backed off significantly. This is even your person's energy. So it's like your person is backing off significantly, can't handle even really looking at the truth, and is having a lot of issue with their, I want to say, confidence every time. And yes, there are issues with that, but it's also issues with even just feeling curious and that desire to move forward. And so over here, then we have the Eight of Cups, and the Eight of Cups is in reverse. This is when the Eight of Cups is in the upright, you have somebody who is pushing toward their Nine of Cups, toward their wish fulfillment. It's an advancement, seven, eight to the nine. And the nine, so the Seven of Cups, they're trying to figure out what it is that they want. They break out of the curiosity or not the curiosity, but the confusion. They get to the Eight of Cups, and the Eight of Cups in this deck, they are running toward what they want. And then the Nine of Cups, of course, being that wish fulfillment, that's what they're seeking out. Here in the reverse, though, you have a person who is not running toward what they want, and it's like they're aimlessly wandering toward what they maybe sort of want. That's really the feeling that I get. It makes this feel even more like depression. So that and the thing is, this is a feeling that's being triggered when they think about this relationship with you. So something is getting in the way to such a significant degree, that they mostly just feel this is that feeling of being powerless. This is that feeling of I'm aimlessly meandering because I can't actually walk in the door that I want to walk in. So there is that. It's like a deep frustration, but it's also there is so much powerlessness in this, and this is what they feel. It's what they think of when they think about how they feel about you. So I think when we go into the extended, we may want to go a little bit deeper on how they actually feel about you, because this is kind of that on the surface, what comes out when they think about how they feel, when they think about their relationship. So this is kind of deep, actually. What they've got on the surface is just a lot of kind of rebellion against this current energy. So they want in no way to feel like things are stagnant and that they're just sitting here. They haven't been able to get right with the concept of just sitting here. And that's what it's really weighing on them. So they're kind of feeling like it's the relationship that's partially at fault. It's the people, it's the circumstances, it's whatever, but part of the biggest issue that they have is that they can't get comfortable just standing still. So Let's take a look here at this Knight of Cups then and understand a little bit more about what's happening with it. This is how they were feeling about the overall relationship. And so there's this desire to make a passionate overture, but there's a refusal to do so, or a block that gets in the way. And as have been looking at some of these other things that have fallen out on the table, I can see perhaps that's exactly what's happening, some sort of block. So the way these cards fell, it was like two little piles, and I took the top one from each pile. We've got the Six of Cups and the Moon. The Moon is all about the mystery that they insist on having around themselves. It's a shroud they pull around themselves to allow a little bit more comfort on their side. So I keep seeing this, whether it's in personal readings, whether it is in these collective readings. You have a person, a lot of your people don't like to let go of that mystery. They like to be very much in the mystery, to be able to control that mystery. We definitely see some desire to control the situation. But up here, they can't really stop thinking about it. And this is a problem because if they are, you also have somebody that would rather be able to um, just stop thinking about it and just not have to deal with it, but they can't seem to get to this place. They're having a hard time not dealing with it. And yet they are very conflicted, so they'd like to be able to move towards you, but they feel like they lack that confidence. They feel like, and that is definitely what's on this card, but they also feel like they don't have the drive, the curiosity, the stamina to even move forward. And this refusal to get close to the truth is definitely contributing to the issue. But let's take a look at the hidden energy. So we know that they're struggling with that same sort of energy that we saw up here, where it's that Princess of Wands, Page of Wands sort of energy. It's just kind of flatlining. It's them not feeling, it's not very passionate. So we have a lot of passion kind of being cut off at the knees. We have a lot of feeling like you can't move forward and do something, feeling like things are stagnant, the sense of depression and just very heavy energy. But this is really that I can't even be curious about this right now. There's healing that hasn't taken place. That's part of what's driving their struggles, and part of the reason that they're having the issues that they're having. Definite desire for some healing, but there hasn't been a sufficient amount of healing. So I won't say no healing has taken place. That is absolutely not what I would assume. However, there's more that needs to take place here, and it creates a little bit of a challenge for your person, because they can't really come out and start doing the healing until they can define the situation and get closer to these truths. But that's something they really just don't feel comfortable doing right now. So we also have the Strength card, which has come out, and this is a good thing. The Strength card is, as we know, it's usually working directly against some sort of fear. And this is a strength that is deep down in them that is going to be beneficial. It's part of the struggle that they're having is that they are used to being a little bit stronger of a person. They're used to being able to navigate these types of difficult situations without any of the difficulties that they've been experiencing here. So it's blindsided them a little bit. That's part of what knocked the confidence out from under them, and causes them to want to utilize so many of these defense mechanisms where they're trying to control, they're trying to maintain the mystery, not getting close to the truth, that sort of thing. And they're very much fixated on the fact that this has been sabotaged for them, not necessarily any self sabotaging that they have done. So it's a little finger pointy, not in your direction so much as whatever it is that's stopping them from enjoying this, whether it is depression. They could easily be finger pointing at their own depression if they're experiencing that, or if there's a person that's getting in the way, or circumstance. I think it's very easy for them to see that, demonize it, feel very frustrated about it. And, not to say that it isn't frustrating, just that they may be putting an undue amount of weight on it. So just something to think about there. But let's take a look at this Lover's card. So this is the Lover's card in reverse. It's a choice in love that feels like a choice you're not getting ready, or you're not being able to make for one reason or another. probably has something to do with this control that's going. We have that's going on up here. We have the Two of Cups in reverse, which kind of reiterates the energy that we see here with the Lovers in reverse. And this is a partnership that isn't coming together. Um, so it's. I think we may need to look a little bit. And there's the Knight of Wands in reverse. You guys, okay, so it's a partnership that's not coming together. We definitely see that there's not a choice. There's something that's getting in the way. There's something that drives trouble with the partnership, and it is also causing your person to behave in a way that is very inconsistent. So that's something that you may continue to see. What you will also notice if you look throughout here is that we've got fire. We've got wands throughout here, and they are all in reverse. We have the Page of Wands, the Princess of Wands, the Queen of Wands, and now the Knight of Wands. Oh, and the King of Wands, all in reverse. So that is all fire that's being subjugated, that's being held back, that's being put down or smothered somehow. And it's a very painful sort of experience. That's part of what's driving this imbalance that you're feeling that can't stay the way that it is. It's part of what's driving that desire that your person has to just get things moving. They can't stand sitting here in this difficult place any longer. So they're still frustrated as you move into this next step. So it's a matter of them being frustrated and not being sure how to handle it, but also not necessarily being able to access that energy that would allow them to have passion and to bring this back, to turn all these wands upside down. So, as we move into the extended reading, and that's where we're going to go next, I think that this is something else for us to take a look at. There wasn't as much information here about how your person feels about you, because when I lay down these first cards, that's just kind of like that top layer of energy, and then I go in and I clarify, and that gets us a little bit farther in. But even getting a little bit farther in did not truly get us to the feeling that they have for you. So we get what they feel when the subject comes up or when they start thinking about you and some of the experiences, but we haven't gotten truly a feel for how they feel about you. I mean, it's kind of evident within this. If they didn't feel strongly about you and attracted toward you, none of this would matter enough that you would even see these cards on the table. Same goes both ways. If you didn't care enough, you wouldn't be watching this reading. So, what we want to understand though is really what's happening in their mind toward you. And how they feel. What are the emotions that are in there? So we'll also take a look at kind of where this is heading, and that's another thing that we'll look at when we get into the deeper layers in the extended reading. So that's where we'll head next. Thanks for being here with me on this one. If this one was resonated for you, please do hit the subscribe button, hit the like. Make sure that we can stay together because I've got more messages for you. You may even want to be able to go back and see some of the messages that came before if this is your first time here. Um, so again, thank you very much. You'll see the link for the extended down below the video, and it'll take you to my Vimeo page, which should take you from there. I will either then see you in that extended or I'll see you in another video. And now here we are with pile 2. So if you chose pile 2, that is the one with the mookalite moon. This one is super interesting to look at and to feel. I'm going to read for you with the Aquarian Tarot, and then I'll clarify with the Constellation Tarot. So we're looking to see what's happening with your person and what's happening kind of in their lives. So the first thing that we're going to check, though, is kind of the energy between the two of you and just see how that feels right now. What is the energy between you and your person to start off? And, you don't have to be in communication with them to have an energy between them. You have the Ace of Pentacles. If you're not in communication, maybe you will be soon. So the Ace of Pentacles is a door opening. It's a new beginning, but it's also a very slow start. So just something to keep in mind. It's not something that takes off running with lots of passion or that sort of thing. It's more sort of a slow movement, but it is a new movement, and it's very much in the material world. That's the feel of this Ace of Pentacles. So Let's take a look then at the energy that is just happening with them. So, this Ace of Pentacles, this door that's opening, that's energy that's happening between the two of you. But I want to see now what is happening just with your person, the energy that's sort of surrounding them. And this is really what we're here for. It's to understand what's happening with them, especially if you're not in communication with them right now. It can be helpful to just see what sort of energies are eddying around them. But you've got something pretty positive. So the Nine of Pentacles is a card of it's feeling like you have it together, but it's also this feeling of emotional independence. A lot of times here lately, that feeling of emotional independence has just been coming at me off this card. And it feels like it follows that seven and that eight of pentacles, and it moves right on into the 10. You know, it's that feeling of it's got a momentum to it in addition to that feeling of kind of having all the ducks in a row, having things together. So that's the energy that is surrounding your person. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's truly how they're feeling right now, but it's kind of it's going to be impacting them one way or the other. And so, generally speaking, when you have that kind of energy around you, it can. I get the sense that it's uplifting to them, but it's also feeling like it's creating some pressure on them to try and measure up to it or try and keep up with it, maybe. Um, okay. Well, so that's interesting because there's a new beginning here, and then there's the feeling that they are somehow getting it together a little bit more than what they have been in the past. So that's interesting. That's kind of fits along with some of what we're seeing in this month's energy. Let's take a look to see how your person is feeling about you, how they're feeling about you right now. And we have the Four of Cups. So the Four of Cups, when you look at it in the upright, it's a card of not being very impressed. It's disappointment. It's also a card of rejection. Feeling this type of disappointment generally will lead to a rejection. So here in the reverse, though, the way they're feeling about you is much more in the area of, or the direction of acceptance. So rather than feeling like they're not very impressed, it's more feeling that they are. And it feels like to me, this is what's happening with them internally. When they think about you, it's not necessarily what they're saying out loud. They may not be saying much of anything about it out loud right now. Certainly may not be saying much about it to you because it kind of feels like this is a not that this is a new development, but this Ace of Pentacles between the two of you feels like it is. That feels a little bit newer. This Nine of Pentacles, this feeling that they are more emotionally independent, more that they're having it together, that seems to be allowing them, it's opening the door for this Four of Cups in reverse kind of feeling where they're feeling a little bit more accepting of your energy and just thinking more positively in general. Let's see how they feel about the relationship. That's what we're going to look at right here. Get a feel for that. We've got the King of Pentacles in reverse that wants to come out there. So let's take a look at that. So again, we'll turn him upright. A lot of times I like to give you guys a feel for what the card looks like in the upright. Maybe we talk about it a little bit while you have the opportunity to look at it. But this one, having come out in the reverse, realize it's not necessarily going to have it doesn't have that same positive connotation that you have when it's in the upright. So in the upright, the King of Pentacles is that head of household. The Queen and King of Pentacles are the heads of that Ten of Pentacles household that this Nine of Pentacles feels like I mentioned it was leading to. And that's that happy household that has all of the resources, everybody's taken care of. And he feels the King of Pentacles, whether it's a man, woman, it doesn't matter what the gender of the person is, but the King of Pentacles generally feels like he's ready for this. He's capable. He's worked for this. He's developed enough for this. In the reverse, though, what I'm feeling is that he's not feeling that way. He's not feeling like he's ready for it. He's not feeling prepared. And there's a sense that he doesn't deserve it in some way. So that's kind of a little bit about what your person is thinking about the relationship. There's that feeling of them not quite deserving it. So we'll have to look a little bit more closely into that. But that may explain part of why you're seeing the separation if you're in separation. It's that feeling of not deserving it, but that feeling that's coming out with you now with this new feeling of opening doors that leads to this ability to feel accepting. That is a whole different sort of feeling than what has been happening with the relationship energy in the past. So I can tell here that they're having some struggles, especially with not feeling like they're worthwhile. With having this, the reason this feels like it's new also to me is it feels like it was a rejection that now they're realizing that rejection is not the right answer. So I guess in this hidden energies, I'm curious to know what it is that your person is struggling with in particular. So we know there's some feelings of, whether they're feeling deserving of it. This new sense of emotional independence may also be part of what they've been struggling with in the past. Got a lot of cards that wanted to come out there, but just two that want to remain on the table for our reading here. I don't usually do that. Okay, so we've got the King of Swords and the Judgment card that have come out for us here. This is in the hidden energies, and it's about what your person is struggling with. So they feel like what they've done in the past does not pass judgment. That is something that they've looked at. But the thing is, they have a hard time actually looking at it. So with the King of Swords here, one of the ways that this one manifests is not being able to look at the big picture. And so it's not so much that your person is unable to look at the big picture right now, but it's really so uncomfortable for them to do so. They generally tend to avoid doing so. And so you have this situation where they are kind of unable to look at the big picture. It's a little bit like a light that's too bright to look at. When they look at the relationship between the two of you, it really does give me that impression like it's a light too bright to look at. They have a hard time looking at it and really taking it in. And so it's like a defense mechanism that wants to be that wants to feel like it's a rational defense mechanism, but instead it ends up causing them to behave in a way that is a little bit less rational. And they know it. They know that this doesn't pass judgment, but it's something that they seem to have a hard time working around and getting past. So maybe that is something that we'll look at when we get into the extended there, maybe what it would take for them to get past this or for the two of you to get past this and move into a better place, because this is something that impacts you too, of course. But before we get into the clarifications here and then the extended, let's take a look to see what's coming for you guys together. So what is the energy that's coming your direction right now? It's not necessarily where everything ends up. It's just the energy that you're heading for at this time. Let's see here. I think that was that's more than one card, so I won't take it. Let's see what we've got. So this is the energy that you're heading toward at this time. And it's based on everything else that you see here on the table. So without all of this movement, this card can't occur. And really, who knows? There could be something that now that you're aware of this, there may be something that you do in your energy that kind of tweaks things to the point that adjusts the future energy a little bit. And your person can do that too, because there's no real accounting for a person's free will. But what I'm going to give you here is the energy that your free will be in. Okay, so we actually had two cards that wanted to fall out there. Everything fell on the floor. And a lot of times when they fall on the floor, if they fall face down, I don't bother with them. If they fall face up, then I have to look to see if they want to be included in the spread. And we actually had two that wanted to be included in the spread. So looking to see that energy that's coming your direction, there is still a lot of fear here. So your person is making great strides coming out of fear at this time, but it's like a mood. It's an important mood, though, because it's helped them to understand how much they should not have rejected what the two of you had. The fact that they weren't feeling like they were deserving does not mean that this should have been rejected. And there's a sense between the two of you coming a little bit closer together. But there's a big wall that your person has essentially erected out of fear because they aren't able to look at the big picture. They aren't able to look into this, what feels like a very bright light, even though they know they can't really face themselves. There's something about this that makes it that they can't look at it, but they can't really face themselves for not looking at it. There is a certain, they're going to be able to kind of get by with that by telling themselves maybe some excuses. I hate to use the term excuse, but I feel like they're going to be using excuses with themselves as to why their treatment of you was not up to par, and why they're not moving in your direction more quickly, because it looks like there is a slow movement in your direction, but it also looks like it's kind of a turn, almost a U-turn to come back. But it's, again, very slow, and they have a hard time actually facing up to it or even looking at it. So they're disappointed in themselves, and here they're willing to continue to kind of pull the wool over their own eyes. It feels like, to continue feeling okay with the way that they conducted themselves in the relationship. So I'm curious about this. I want to learn a little bit more. We're going to start with the Ace of Pentacles, and we will clarify, like I said, with the Constellation Tarot. This is it's a lot of energy on the table of fear, of not quite knowing what to do next. Let's see what is happening with that energy between the two of you. So that Ace of Pentacles is that slow moving door that is opening, but is opening very slowly. It feels like the two of you coming back together, but doing so very slowly. So we have the Page of Pentacles that came out, which is a card of learning. It's a card of moving back slowly towards something, learning. There's a Four of Swords that speaks of healing. It's rest, it's rejuvenation, it's healing, it's things getting a little bit better, and the smoke starting to clear. So it's almost like that Seven of Cups in the reverse sort of feeling to it, because it's part of what's helping this door to open and helping you to move back toward one another. So there's definitely a sense here of growth, almost that feeling of springtime. So here we are in the northern hemisphere, about to move into winter. It's late autumn, we're moving into winter, but there's this feeling of springtime between the two of you when I just look at just the energy between you. So let's take a look then at this Nine of Pentacles, and this was the energy just on their side, and that it was it's a pretty decent energy, and talking about just feeling a little bit more emotionally independent. And here's a person who maybe does feel emotionally independent a lot of the time, but there's been something about this relationship that really threw them off their game, triggered them a little bit, made it difficult for them to figure out what they should be doing. Definitely they were looking for they were hoping to be able to control it, and are not feeling like that was even a possibility. But they've decided that they want to give up on the struggle. So we've got the Centaurus card here in the reverse, and we've also got the Five of Wands, couple of fives, and this one's here in the reverse as well. It's about not wanting to struggle and allowing certain things to roll off. Not being able to control those things, letting them roll off, and allowing the new picture to form. So to a certain degree, your person is able to let that new picture form. They just aren't able to expand their view. It's what we see down here with their struggles, and that's what they have an issue with. That's what they're not able to get themselves to pass judgment on that. But it's an interesting sort of challenge that's happening, because they are coming out of it a little bit. There is definitely this feeling, like I was saying here, about the smoke clearing and realizing they don't want to struggle. They've released something and they're letting it roll off, and that's actually doing some really healing things for them as well. Probably making this healing even more possible, but this feeling is allowing them to, with that smoke clearing a little bit, start to see a little bit more of what was happening with you. So when we look to see how they feel about you and what was really happening with that, what we got was this: it used to be rejection, but now it's more of an acceptance. It's not rejection anymore. They figured out some things. They've gotten out of their own way. Only to a certain degree. I mean, we see down here they're still very much in their own way, but they've at least gotten out of their own way to a point where they're able to see that this is not something that should have been rejected or should be rejected. In their energy that they're moving toward, we see that they're still not out of the woods yet, and that they still are able to talk themselves into, here's why I behaved the way that I behaved, and really, I'm justified in doing so to a certain degree. There's definitely some of that, but that's very egoistic. It's very protective. It's them not wanting to accept the responsibility. But in here, we see them starting to accept responsibility. That may function as a little bit of a slippery slope that's going to get them a little bit closer to seeing this big picture. So let's take a look here. They felt like they couldn't move forward with you in a faster, aggressive sort of fashion. There is something about this that feels like it is, and this is confirmation of that. Feels like it is divinely guided. Like the two of you didn't have much of a choice but to come together, at least in some capacity, and yet there was a lot of struggle that happened when the two of you collided, when your energy collided. So there's a lot of positivity, a lot of wonderment. Beautiful things happened, but also some big challenges happened when the two of you came together. And I see here this sense of battling almost for the sake of battling and just wanting to win at any cost. There is certainly this element of them feeling threatened enough by your essence that they feel like they needed to win at any cost. In fact, they were willing to do so at the cost of the relationship that the two of you shared. So even if this is somebody that you didn't get a chance to date, this is somebody that you had a strong connection with, maybe in the workplace or someplace that you were in the same place but not necessarily romantically intertwined. There is definitely this sense of friction at the cost of the relationship, but also feeling very much guided toward one another. So there was frustration that occurred here that allowed your person to do this sort of rejection thing, make it feel like a rejection without having looked at the whole thing. And so now they've come back and they're starting to unwind a little bit. There's a little bit of healing that's going on. There's some learning, some new perspectives being formed. And there are some things, again, that they just don't want to struggle with, but that allows them to do some releasing and to actually get to a place where they're saying, okay, I now have a slightly different perspective on what's happened here. What they may not realize is that's going to lead to a new perspective across the board. But one thing at a time, it's sometimes when a person is healing, all of the healing doesn't take place all at once. And that would be really overwhelming if it did. It's overwhelming enough the way that it is. So let's look at this King of Pentacles in reverse. And so remember, the King of Pentacles was in the position of how they felt about the relationship, and they didn't feel deserving of it. That's kind of a sad feeling, but it's something that keeps coming out. So if you are watching this and you're here and you're new, please go back and look at a couple of some of the other videos and maybe subscribe, because this is a pattern that has played out in several of the different videos that we've seen. There is, and this is part of the pattern as well. Maybe I'll just pull the other card while I'm explaining. Sure. Okay. So, oh my gosh, yes. Okay. So here are the patterns that all of the things that I'm seeing here are patterns that have played out as your person has looked at this relationship. So, this relationship, they don't feel deserving of it. Okay. They don't feel deserving of the wholeness and the wonderment that this relationship brought to them. So, as they started to feel the warmth of it, they were much more attracted than they expected to be. But then they got there and they sort of freaked out and didn't feel like they could do it. There is definitely this sense of them wanting to be around you because you took pain away. Pain that is old, pain that is before you, not caused by your relationship, but has been satisfied by this relationship. So one of their favorite things about being close to you is that you take this old pain away and make them feel like it's healing. And also, so it's kind of opened up some of this old pain as they've been with you and kind of had to sit in the discomfort. That's another thing that keeps coming up. And they have a hard time sitting with discomfort. But as they have done that, as they've been triggered by you, and you've also been triggered by them, but as they've been triggered by you, They have had to bring up some of this old heartbreak in no uncertain terms. It's coming up in their minds. But that's where this Four of Swords is showing that there's some healing that's happening there. So it's like you're opening up this wound in them that reminds them a little bit of the last time they felt this amazing wonderment. Okay. So this could go back as far as childhood, but the thing is they're actually healing from some very old pain as a result of the experiences that the two of you had. And it was started by the fact that you were doing a lot to help with their pain when you were together. They probably didn't even realize that's really what was going on there. I'm curious to see about this hidden energy. So we've got the Judgment card in reverse. We've got the King of Swords in reverse. This was them not being able to look at the big picture because it was a light too bright to look at. So let's clarify this and see kind of where it takes us. Too bright of a light to look at. There's one that we've seen a couple of times. Neither of these, but we do want this. So the 10 of Wands, it's a heavy load. It's a heavy load for them to carry. It's tough for them to even know that you exist, which sounds very kind of woe is me, but it's very, they just have a hard time with the concept of even looking into this bright light. You've got the Six of Wands in reverse. They don't feel like they can win. The Six of Wands is victory after a long battle. And when you don't feel like you can win, but you're still going to have been in the long battle, you get this feeling. This is the Six of Wands in the reverse. Things haven't gone well. I'm not going to win. I can't look at the big picture. This whole thing is just too heavy. I have to walk away, have to shrink away, have to, in some cases, they have hidden or outright ghosted. These are people who it's a lot of fear driving this. So when we look at what would it take for this person to get from where they are now, and for the two of you to get from where you are now to get to the place where you would want to go, and we will look at that in the extended. One of the things that we know is that they're going to have to be able to look at the big picture, and they're going to have to be able to forgive themselves. There's a forgiving piece in here, but it's forgiving themselves for the pain that they've caused. And so, it's another one of those mantras that shows up in my daily meditation. And if you stick around long enough, as I say, you're going to hear them all. But there's one about forgiveness, and it's about accepting people at the point, at any point in their lives, where as they were. Whether it's now, whether it's before, whether it's you, whether it's someone else, whether you like what they did or not, just being able to accept that they were that person. That's really the basis of forgiveness. But it's forgiveness of self for any pain that you've caused others, for the role that you've played in pain, but also forgiveness of others for the role that they've played in your pain. And this is something that has to happen. Your person has to be able to get in and sort of work through that forgiveness in order to be able to lay down this load. So that's part of the struggle that they're facing. And it looks like they continue to face it into the future here, or at least they take some of that weight into the future. They're continuing to tell themselves that they're justified in the ways that they've behaved, but it's got this feeling to it like it can't last, or this feeling to it like the days of them not knowing the truth about this are numbered, because they do have that emotional independence. Here's that same Nine of Pentacles that's coming out here to tell us that they are a little more together than what they might think. Okay, and we also have the King of Swords that fell down onto the floor, but it fell face up and wanted to be part of the spread. So we've got this King of Swords, and it's very similar in feeling to this King of Swords over here. So again, it's not being able to back up and look at the big picture. It's not being able to take everything into consideration so that you can make a good call. Instead, it's allowing themselves to be blinded. And remember, this is that energy that you're moving toward with this person. It's not your final energy. It's what's next. So I think what we'll do when we go into the extended reading is look at this a little bit more closely and just kind of see what is happening with this. So we see that they've got, again, that emotional independence that is fueling fueling them and starting to kind of take off the veil and show them the truth, but they don't want to see the truth because that's very difficult. That's a lot of responsibility for them. And it would be very difficult for them to look at everything and be able to say, it doesn't pass judgment and I can't make it past judgment. They are still carrying a heavy weight. There's healing that they have to do. They're doing it, but it's not quite done yet. And you are the one that has spurred them. You have spurred them into this level of healing. So this is very much wrapped around you, and they're aware that there's this tie, this soul tie with you too. Um, so yes, we're going to go ahead and go into the extended. One of the things that we're going to look at is what kind of, let's develop this out a little bit more and understand what else has to happen here, because we're going to look at what it is that's going to get you guys from where you are to where you're going. But the other thing that we need to look at is kind of this energy that you're heading toward and what you could do to make the best of that, or what, tell us a little bit more about that energy. And the other thing that I'd like to dig into is how they're feeling about you, because I'm getting the sense here that that is changing. They're figuring some things out. They recognize that soul tie. They're also in a place where they're starting to see that some of this I had to win wasn't necessarily beneficial to anyone. So we'll take a closer look at how they're feeling about you as we go into that extended as well. So again, if this one resonated, please do subscribe, hit the like button, let me know what it is that you guys like, because I'll continue to do more of that. And so I will either see you in the extended, and you can find the link for that down in the text below the video, or I will see you in another video. So here we are with pile 3. Pile 3 had the amethyst moon. So with this one, I'm going to read for you with the Marchetti Tarot, and then I'm going to clarify with the Wildwood Tarot. So we're looking at what's happening with your person, just kind of checking in to see how they're doing. We're going to start, though, by getting the current energy between the two of you. In a minute, we're going to get just the energy for them. But we'll start by getting, the energy that's flowing between the two of you. And right now we've got the Six of Swords, but it's coming out in reverse. So the Six of Swords in reverse is kind of a situation that hasn't calmed down yet. So the Six of Swords, when you see it in the upright, is that movement from tumultuous water to steady water to calm waters. And so that's really kind of, the whole calming down process, but it hasn't happened yet with the two of you. There's still this sense that the calming down has not thoroughly occurred. So both of you might be feeling it a lot, or maybe feeling it a little bit more than you're letting show. I get that sense. So with you, you're probably very aware of what you're feeling. With your person, probably nobody is particularly aware. I get the sense that they're kind of keeping it to themselves, and people around you don't have a full idea of how much you're feeling here either. So if you're trying to hide it, you're doing a nice job, but unfortunately it still feels like it's a pretty difficult place to be. So that's the energy that's between the two of you. Let's take a look here to see what the energy is just around your person. So this is going to be the energy that they are experiencing right now, that's around them, and it could be influencing them pretty heavily. In the other two column, or in the other two piles, definitely we saw some interesting things here. So I'll be interested to see what comes out. And so here we have the Nine of Coins is coming out on top here. And I do like to just take that top card most of the time when I have the cards, multiple cards come out. So the Nine of Coins, here's a card that has been coming up throughout all three piles. And it continues to have that feeling of an emotional independence once again. So it's that energy that's happening just with them. There is still a lot of challenge between the two of you as far as the energy that's flowing between the two of you. It's still feeling choppy. It's not calmed down just yet, but your person is emotionally getting back on their feet and starting to understand some things. So at least you can see, so there's been some adjustment here because this feels like a new energy. It doesn't feel like one that's been hanging around. And maybe, it's also an I've got it together sort of energy. So you may have a person, and I feel like a lot of you do have a person who really does kind of have it together in general, but you throw them for a loop. And so this is kind of them getting back on their feet after having been really, thrown into a tumultuous place with the experiences with you. And so let's understand maybe a little bit more about that. We're going to look into how they're feeling about you right now. And this is going to be a little bit of what they feel when they think of you, but it's how they feel about you. We're going to look at how they feel about the relationship here in a moment. But right now we're going to focus on you and the dynamics there. So they're feeling like you have freed them from something. The devil card in the upright is it's a feeling of being this one feels a little bit trapped. It feels like you're obligated, can't get out of something, locked in, shackled in. It could be like an addiction that has overwhelmed them or has been overwhelming them. Something has been trying to control them for a very long time and through many cycles. But the way that you make them feel feels like they are not under this control so much. It's a very different sort of experience. And this is a really awesome card to have here. It doesn't necessarily give me the feeling that things are easy as a result of this, but they've turned some very significant corners. And to see them sort of picking themselves back up, I see that this is a picking yourself back up emotionally kind of card, even though there's still a lot going on here. They're starting to get back on their feet. And it has a lot to do with what you've given them. They know it. They're aware of the impact that you've had on them, even if they haven't really put it all together yet as to what it truly means for them. So let's take a look then at what's happening in the how they feel about the relationship. So the way they feel about you is like you freed them from something that was controlling them. But if we look at the relationship itself and how they're feeling about that, wow, let's check that out. This could be a little bit, well, it's definitely going to be a broader feeling. Well, they have lessons they feel like they haven't learned. This is going to be interesting to get in and clarify. So the Page of Coins is a learning card. It's the card of a student, the card of a learner. And it's somebody who does not assume that they have everything together. It's very not arrogant. It's very humble and accepting of new information, willing to learn, willing to understand new things. And it's also that ability to learn and the things that you are learning. And in the reverse like this, it's like they're looking at this relationship and starting to feel all of the things that they haven't figured out, all of the things that they haven't learned. And so you may have had a little bit of this as well. This relationship came in where both of you were feeling fairly sure about yourselves in some important ways. Okay. And I don't mean like egotistical arrogance sort of feeling good about things, but just feeling like this is not a problem that you typically have. And then you ran into one another and you discovered I was still very much living under the control of something. I really didn't have it together as much as I would like, and I had not learned everything as well as I thought I had learned it. So maybe you're being reminded of lessons that you feel like you've already really at least touched on, if not spent a lot of time with. And now to find out that there's so much more that you need to take in, that you need to learn. It's an intense sort of feeling, and that's part of how they're feeling about this relationship. So I'm looking forward to clarifying. I'm really looking forward to clarifying all of this, but this one in particular, the way they feel about the relationship, it intrigues me. I'm interested in to see the hidden energies also, just to kind of understand what it is that your person is struggling with. Because we see that there is still a struggle going on. There's still, we haven't moved all the way. This is the energy between you. it hasn't gone all the way to the more restful, the calmer waters. There's definitely been some historical struggle here as your person was working through some things, having a very hard time, not learning. They've got lessons that they've been reminded of, and something was controlling them. But the impact of you has changed this for them. But let's see what it is that they're really struggling with as they go through this. And okay, so we have the Hermit card, and they're learning some things that are very difficult for them to process. So as they're going through, sometimes when you learn things about yourself, or you learn things about your world that frankly violate what you have always been taught. You know, when I'm compelled to point out that when like the base chakra is forming in a very young person, in a baby, in an infant, as they're moving into their toddler years, you know, you have the chakras are developing from the bottom up. Okay. And so you're starting, as you're developing that base chakra, you're understanding some values and things that really truly make you up. And then later on in life, as you learn more, you may discover that some of the values that you were taught were not necessarily the ones that you want to maintain throughout your life. And so, as part of your healing process, you begin to grow beyond those teachings. But it can be a really challenging thing to do. And that's what your person is facing. So, they've gone into their hermit cave. They've gone into their, I like to call it the thinking cave. And some of the things that they've been hit with here are just incredibly uncomfortable for them, and they have a hard time with it. And so there's that. There's also, we see that they are rising above some of that, though. So these struggles, it's really kind of an impressive and positive thing that we see here with, even though there's still a lot going on that's unresolved between the two of you, and your person has figured out, here I have a bunch of things that I still have to learn. There's a very victorious feeling here. So this one and this one together almost kind of feel like the Six of Wands for me, where it's a victory after a long battle. Because I get the sense that this is through several cycles. You know, this is after several cycles, you have come along and helped to break this cycle for them, and they're starting to get back on their feet emotionally. So let's see where you're headed, and what I mean is, you know, what's the energy that's coming for you guys next. Not necessarily where do you end up at the end of everything, whatever that means. But it feels like it always goes on. You know, saying here's where things end is a difficult question to answer, because it's you'd have to define where that ending is. However, we can, the more accurate energy is going to be, or the things that I will be able to read more accurately are going to be more in the near term. And we are looking at kind of that near term energy that's coming your way. So we've got the Knight of Coins. Turn the rest of these over. And so the Knight of Coins is a slow but steady energy. I really couldn't ask for more. I mean, I guess we'll have to see what happens when it's clarified, but the Knight of Coins is this slow, steady energy that just allows you to smell the roses along the way. You know, so it's not something that it's a very dependable energy. When I see a knight, these are cards of action, okay? And so they have different types of action, though. Some of them are moving forward very quickly. Some of them are more rash. Some of them are less dependable, but really passionate. You know, this is less rash, slower moving, but also very dependable. And that's the kind of energy that you're moving toward together. So let's get in and clarify this. So we're clarifying with the Wildwood Tarot, and we're going to start here with the Six of Swords in reverse. That's that Six of Swords in reverse that's between the two of you. So that's that current energy that is not calm. It's not calmed down yet, I guess I should say. So it may be relatively calm because you may be relatively calm and collected people, but it's feeling tumultuous on the inside. It's something that hasn't, there's still a disturbance there. So we've got the Stag. The Stag is like the Strength card in this deck, but it's in reverse. And it's okay, so it's giving us that sense that, you know, Strength fights against fear, or it stands against fear. And the fear is winning out when we see it there in the reverse like that. The other one that's coming out for you here is the Queen of Arrows. So the Queen of Arrows is air energy. It's like the Queen of Swords, and it is it's a logical energy, but it's also a very decisive energy, and it's cutting things out is what's coming out with this card. So it's generally going to be logic that comes out with this card. It's generally going to be the concept of cutting things out. Sometimes it's just like really decisive. I'm not I'm not doing this right now kind of energy. And that's almost what I get here. That this energy has been executed by one or both of you. Someone has walked away and just said, I'm not going to participate. I'm not going to be part of this. And they've walked away. But it's been because of this lack of strength. It's been because the fears have won out. When I look at the rest of this, especially with regard to your person, it's just so positive. But this is the difficult part. And this is the energy that we see between the two of you. So this feels like what it's moving into is a lot more promising, but it's very challenging right now. Let's take a closer look and we'll move into the energy that is around your person. It's that Nine of Coins, which is a very it's like a confident energy, but it's also I feel like I've got it together. I feel like my ducks are in a row and I can actually feel a little bit organized. So we've got the Ten of Stones. That is a fantastic. That's like that's the same energy as this. So it's Earth. But the Ten of Stones is oh, interesting. We've got 8, 9, 10. So the Ten of Stones is that home, happy home. It's the one that's well resourced. The Queen and King of Pentacles are the head of that Ten of Pentacles household, and this is that Ten of Pentacles household. So stones, coins, pentacles, it's all earth energy, so it's all very much in the material world. And this is that energy that your person is geared toward. Then we've got kind of the fact that they're moving toward it here, but they lack that self-mastery. They lack that thing that they haven't learned that we see over here. They're really feeling the impact of that. And that's part of the reason why they're still feeling like they're over here in these tumultuous waters. So you've got somebody that is generally fairly together in a lot of ways. And there's something here that just threatens them, despite the fact that they still have a tendency to move toward that Ten of Stones, Ten of Earth sort of happy home. And that is a well-resourced, I mean, it's just everything that a person needs, everything the family needs is there from both, a resource and an emotional standpoint. They've got everything that they need. But your person is feeling like they're lacking in something. So it's like they're trying to slice and dice. This also feels, even though this is all earth energy, it also feels a little bit like air energy in that there's logic, there's communication with self. So they may not be communicating with you right now, and I get the sense that many of them are not. They're holding back and saying, okay, I need to understand more before I can move forward. They've decisively cut or removed parts of this relationship and this interaction completely. So what you may have seen was a little bit of like certain topics became off limits, and then maybe the person became off limits. I'm getting that sense from this over here, and it was like as their strength fell down the stairs and became less. That's an interesting sort of progression that feels like it's happened there, because this Nine of Coins energy feels relatively new. The Ten of Coins does not. The Eight of or Stones does not. The Eight of Stones also does not. So it's like they've been doing really well generally, but they haven't necessarily, they've been in tumultuous waters. They have been thrown off their game a little bit. And so they're really starting to understand, here are the places where I feel like I'm, falling short. Okay, so let's look at this Devil card. The Devil card here in the reverse, it's for how they feel about you. Like you've unlocked things for them. You have saved them from something. There's this, it's a huge experience that they've had with you. So the Blasted Oak just came out, which is like the Tower card in the traditional tarot. And so that is a tumultuous change. Often it's an emotional change. Some towers are bigger than others. This feels like a relatively big one. Like it's reflected down here. Whatever happened when they came together with you, it forced them to consider a new perspective in such a way that they ended up in this thinking cave. being in this thinking cave created some really uncomfortable things for them, but it's still truths that they can't unsee. They're having to basically rebuild themselves from the base chakra on up. And this blasted oak card kind of shows a little bit of that sensation and that feeling there. Okay, and then we have the Six of Arrows. So it's a bit of a shock to them how much they're feeling uncomfortable in your energy right now. And not like an intellectual shock, but a shock to the soul. Because when they came together with you, what they discovered was, wow, I feel like something's been unlocked. I feel like I've been set free. This is crazy and tumultuous, but where it ends is I feel like I've been set free. However, this Six of Arrows also has them feeling like things are a lot calmer, things have calmed down, but that was not really the case. That was just kind of the impact of that energy that the impact that you have on them. You have a tendency to kind of quell the beast, and so that's essentially what happened. And they thought it was all part of this. So, yeah, you've set them free, but really what you've done is set them down the path to learn some lessons. They can feel it when they have this blasted oak sort of tower feeling. That was a terrifying experience for them. It has not really continued, or it hasn't stopped being a terrifying experience for them. Some of the changes that are required in them as a result of those realizations, even though, like we see here, they are getting back on their feet. Things are a little bit better. They're starting to see where maybe some of those gaps are. But it was just a shock to them to go from feeling like, you were making everything feel pretty great for them. And then for some reason, all of a sudden, that was not the case. And now we see the energy between you feeling a lot more tumultuous and like it hasn't moved into that calmer place just yet. Part of it is because of this. So one of the reasons that they turned and kind of went a different direction was because of this realization that they weren't feeling. This goes right with this card. So this is the I haven't learned, and this is the I don't have the emotional self mastery, and I'm not ready to continue. Looking at these things. So let's take a look at this Page of Coins in reverse. That one, again, it's that feeling of not really having learned. We've got the Knight of Arrows, which is like the Knight of Air energy, and that's a super decisive, fast forward moving knight. But when he's in the reverse, he's a lot less consistent, and he starts to have defense mechanisms come out that might cause him to do things like cut somebody off. And of course, I'm saying him, but it's not necessarily that your person is a him. It's just where I went with the pronouns. I'm constantly learning new things about what to do with pronouns. But the important part to note here is that some good decisions are being passed by, and instead some rash decisions are being made or were being made. And it's a result of feeling like when they saw this relationship, they just kind of weren't sure what to do with it. And then they jumped in because it felt so great to be with you. But then there's like actual things that they had to face and learn, and they are not feeling as confident about that. So this caused them to kind of get, what does my friend call it? Squicky and disappear, essentially emotionally disappear from the situation, even though a couple of you still see this person sitting across the room from you, but they're just incredibly distant. Um, there's also the King of Vessels. So this is the other thing that will have contributed to their behaviors. The King of Vessels is like, it's like the King of Cups, and it's that water energy. And in the upright, it's a very loving energy, but it has its limits. The King of Vessels really likes to be emotionally stable and likes to appear emotionally stable. It's a giant show of weakness not to appear emotionally stable. And this is a person who that hits them in the ego in a way that they have a very difficult time with. This is not uncommon. It's not me saying that your person is egoistic. In fact, this is definitely not an egoistic sort of or an arrogant sort of feeling here, but they are, again, unable to really allow themselves to have the energy flow and if they're not feeling great about things, they're very guarded about the way they show that. And it has to do with the lessons here they haven't learned. So it's about vulnerability they haven't learned. And this has caused them to be very unstable and to behave in a pretty unstable fashion. So let's look at this Hermit card. And so this was the hidden energy. The hidden energy was all about, I talked a little bit here about them kind of reprogramming their base chakra a little bit. This is, though, it's a pretty big difference. So we see it here with this Tower card or with this Blasted Oak card, that things have really, this is a significant change for them. So let's see what we've got here. We've got the pole star, which is like the star card, but it's come out in reverse. So this is an idea which, the time has not yet come, but it's coming. So it's a divinely guided sort of experience. It's kind of a scary thing, honestly, but it's got a delay on it. So there's something about the relationship between the two of you that requires a delay. It feels like there are things that you both need to be figuring out, kind of in your own space before you're able to come back together and be successful about being together. But right now, even just the fact that your energy is bouncing off of each other, in the way that it becomes very challenging. So let's see here. We've got the pole star in reverse to show, to better clarify this hermit. And then we've also got the hooded man. Okay. So this is the this is the hermit in reverse. And so sometimes when the hermit in reverse comes out, when it comes out in reverse, it means that they've gone into their thinking cave and they've come back with a few answers. This is true. It also can mean sometimes that they went into their thinking cave and came back lacking in some answers, lacking in some wisdom, and still very much seeking that. This is also true. So this card is giving me both of those feelings. This hermit cave is all about the truths. It's about them having to delve into the values that they've been taught, what they grew up with, and having to really question it and say, there's something about this that's at odds with your relationship. It is creating a delay. These are things that need to be realized separately. They can't make these strides when you are present because of the way that the energy is currently bouncing off of each other. And there are some things that you'll need to do. We'll take an advice. We'll take a piece of advice in the extended. We'll take a look to see what it is that you would need to do in order to overcome some of this. But it's clear that there is work to do on both sides. And this is just kind of telling us, hey, there's going to be a little bit of a delay. Your person's got some things to work on. They've got some things to work on with regard to what they feel their values are, have been. They've got a lot of things to question and to kind of go back and say, all right, let me think about this too. Because again, like they've had a lot of wisdom come out, but they also have a lot that they feel like they still don't know and they feel like they still need to search for. So it's an unfinished sort of time in the thinking cave. But they're moving toward this energy, or I guess you guys are moving toward this energy of this slow moving but forward moving, very steady forward movement kind of energy. And so it's a positive thing, but it doesn't I don't necessarily know what it means. So let's take a closer look to see. And we've got both of our cards here. So we've got Temperance or Balance in this deck and the Nine of Bows, which is like the Nine of Wands. So the Nine of Wands has you protecting something that no longer truly needs to be protected. It's that sense of still fighting a battle that when you really get down and evaluate it, you may discover the battle has changed significantly or no longer needs to be fought. But here's a person that is still standing that a lot of times this is the wounded warrior kind of feeling. I'm not getting wounded warrior off of this so much as I'm still doing things the way that I have historically done them because I've not yet completely thought this through. Well, there's definitely some thinking through going on your person's part, and balance is where you guys are headed. So it's a slow, steady movement forward, balance. This is incredibly promising. I think I'd like to check into that a little bit more for you and see if we can get a little bit more about that. So That's where we're headed. But this is kind of the big picture right now. You've got this energy that you're headed toward that is very slow and steady, but right now things are feeling a little bit tumultuous, a little bit like they cut you off, maybe even relatively quickly out of their own fear. There's this sense around them though that they're starting to get back on their feet and starting to regain maybe some of that wisdom that they had and their ability to function that they had, but they're recognizing where the gaps are. And they're off actively searching out, trying to understand what's happening with some of those gaps. It's a challenge for them to get through to that because they feel like even though you have freed them and kind of set them down a new path, there are a lot of things here they feel like they still haven't learned and their reaction to it is maybe not the best. So they have a tendency to kind of clinch up and go into themselves. But there's also this tendency to just fly and be very inconsistent, which is different from the energy where you guys are headed. So I'd like for us to look a little bit in the extended into that energy where you're headed. I also want to get a better feel for how they feel about you because this is pretty monumental right here with them feeling like you make them feel calm. But you've put them through a learning, a process that they now have to do some learning. It's really setting them free, but it's not a quick process. So we'll look into that a little bit more. I feel like there's more to be gathered on what it is that they feel about you, especially after looking into how they feel about this relationship. And then, like I said, we're also going to look at that bridge question to see what has to happen in order to transition from where you are today to where you're headed. That's what we'll look at in the extended. So hopefully this resonated for you. If this did resonate for you, please do hit the subscribe button and maybe check a few of the older videos that might have some additional messages for you as well, because there are a lot of patterns that showed up across time that I'm also seeing evident in this reading. So in the extended, where the link is down below, you should be able to just follow that and it'll take you to my Vimeo page and that'll take you from there. But in the extended, hopefully we can get in a little bit deeper to just kind of understand truly what it is that's underneath some of what we're seeing here in this reading. Because like here's the first layer of energy, here's the next few, and then when we go into the extended, it'll get a little bit deeper. So we'll look at that. If this did resonate, though, like I said, stick around. Please like the video, subscribe. I look forward to seeing you in the extended, or if not, then I'll see you in a future video.